Here are your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
Short notice, no problem. What's going on, folks? Welcome back to another episode of the Bloody Water Podcast. Mackenzie Dern, the jiu-jitsu ace, has taken on a fantastic Muay Thai striker in Angela Hill. And I like to look at this matchup, or I guess this card, main event, as two specialists who are seeking to find balance. I think that's what it comes down to. If you're looking at Angela Hill, looking like a more or less balanced record between wins and losses, but we know you can read deeper into that. You're looking at Mackenzie Dern. We were talking about championships not too long ago. Now we have to climb the hill again. So joining me to break down all of the fantastic stuff that we got to talk about here for this fight card, it's the New Mexico native, the Santa Fe bomber, AJ, brother. What's up, my man? Women's MMA main event. You gotta love to see it. How you feeling, bro?
Derick, I love to see it, man, and I'm glad you let in with the very yin and yang, harmonious, the Bushido-esque style, man, because it's also bringing it back. We finally have a women's main event with a lot of name value on there, but as well, folks, a very stacked, especially if you know who they are, rest of the card, man. It's going to be a fun fight night. I'm very excited to break it down with you, Derick. How you looking, brother?
I'm living good, man. I'm feeling good. I always have been a big proponent of women's mixed martial arts. I always try to highlight it on the sleepers and stuff like that. So when you do find yourself with the main card, you get hit with a little of the comebacks that I think you had mentioned a little bit when the mics were cold, right? You said, hey, some people are saying this card might not be so hot. Folks, you gotta understand, just because they're not the most popular person in the world doesn't mean that this can't be a banger card. I'm gonna blow some minds right now, but believe it or not, you know that Conor McGregor guy, right? You know at one point people didn't know who he was? Like, you know that, right? This is the same situation with all these people, so you gotta take that into account. AJ, real quick, before we jump into the fight breakdowns. Main events. Angela Hill and Mackenzie Dern haven't really fared too hot when they've been in these main event slots. You're looking at Mackenzie Dern, she's lost both of her main event appearances. Angela Hill, I believe she lost her last main event appearance, if I'm not mistaken. So this goes to show is we're looking for turning points. We're looking for 3 rounds turned 5 rounds. You know Angela Hill can go for 20 rounds, it doesn't matter. How does this play into the psychology of this matchup right here, man? This isn't just a big moment because it's women's MMA main event. It's like, you got to win here. What do you think?
You're right, Derick. There's a lot on the line. There's also a lot being brought by both fighters outside of the camps, too. There's a lot of mental things going on here, whether it's on Dern's side with their new training camp, divorce, all that stuff, or Angela Hill coming in, feeling underrated, needing the win. There's a lot on this, man. That's exactly why I'm excited to break it down with you, because I do think the mental aspect plays a massive role in this fight. Nonetheless, the X's and O's, because you're right, the specialists are dangerous at what they do.
100%. And with that being said, let's jump straight into it, man. Folks, break out your screenshots if you're watching this right now. These are your UFC Vegas 73 picks right here. And AJ, when we talk about consensus picks, we have to run down those ones first. We're talking about Alexander Fluffy Hernandez comeback spot, I guess if you will, against Edmen Shahbazyan, Loopy Godinez on short notice against Emily Ducote, and Joaquin Buckley. 170-pound debut. We think he can get the win here against Andre Fialho. So real quick, just a quick take. You don't even got to break them down one by one. What's the theme of these picks here tonight?
Ooh, theme of it. I haven't really thought about that, Derick. Theme about these picks tonight, I would say momentum, or what's the word I'm looking for? Consistency. These guys are consistently performing, if I had to look at those 3.
Yeah, and if I look at them, I like to think grappling. I like to think of people with relentless wills. And I like to think more or less the Buckley pick is a little bit of an exception, but high fight IQ. I think that's kind of what we're looking at right there. Now, it sounds like you got something to come back.
I would disagree, man. Buckley has started to present himself as a high IQ, so I agree with you.
Well, Andre Fialho would disagree with you, my friend. You know what I'm saying? But that's neither here nor there. Now, listen, we're talking about a little bit of context, a little bit of contention in the picks. I'm actually going to rock with Mackenzie Dern tonight. And AJ, you should know how that's almost a blasphemous thing for me to say, given that I feel like I've been the biggest Angela Hill ambassador for years now. But I think that the jiu-jitsu, there we go. Shout out some jiu-jitsu right here. I think it may prevail. We'll hit on that a little bit later. Give me your one-sentence spiel on this main event.
The one-sentence spiel for Angela Hill, Mackenzie Dern. Man, I think you let it off perfectly with balance, harmony, both fighters looking to see what they fully bring to the table. I'm excited for this intricate chess match.
And AJ, you said for Diego Ferreira, right? Because I think you like him here at UFC Vegas 73. That first round is a problem if you're facing Diego Ferreira, correct?
Absolute monster in the first round, Derick. Can Michael Johnson weather the storm? I'm excited to hear what you think.
And I'll say people just keep sleeping on Michael Johnson, and he's kind of Bobby Green-esque, and you sleep on him, and he gonna wake you up. You know what I'm saying? All right, listen, folks, take a screenshot one more quick time. These are your picks here for UFC Vegas 73. But with that being said, you know what time it is. It's time to break down some picks. But before we do that, AJ, we got to remind the people, if you ain't hit the subscribe button, what are we doing here? We're almost at 570 subscribers, which almost means that we're at 600 subscribers. I mean, my math might be a little off, but listen, subscribe. AJ, where do the people catch you on Twitch?
Twitch.tv/Santa Fe Bomber. Go check me out. We're breaking things down all the time. And if I got the weekend off, the ladies doing something, you know your boy's gonna be streaming the fights there too. So make sure you're stopping in and dropping in the comment section, the chat. So that way we have a little discourse, man. Have some fun with me over twitch.tv/Santa Fe Bomber.
And folks, I'm just going to take a quick guess, but I would imagine at this point of the program, you're probably saying, can y'all break down some fights? And that's exactly what we're going to do. Let's talk about it.
Here's to another main card breakdown, courtesy of your hosts, Derick G and AJ.
All right, AJ, you kind of capped this one off pretty solid, right? You said, hey, there's some personal drama going on over here. There's some things outside of what happens in the cage that may affect the outcome of this fight. And it might come from the sense of pressure being put on somebody. It might be coming from the sense of my training camp got a little bit mixed up here, or it might be coming from the, hey, we're going to scrap your guys' bout, move it out a week, and then turn it into a 5-round main event. Like, it could be a mixture of all of those things. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter about the preparation at the end of the day, because when you get in the cage or when you get in the ring or when you go and compete, you fall back and you regress to your natural tendencies, right? And I think that you've spoken volumes on that. So talk to me about the natural tendencies of a Mackenzie Dern or Angela Hill. Two specialists that are aiming to find balance in their approach. Can they actually fulfill that given that they're so high level at what they both do respectively?
Well, that seems to be the question that comes up multiple times when both of these fighters fight, Derick. Can Mackenzie Dern get it done on the hands? Can she survive on the hands? Will Angela Hill be able to stop the takedown and get it done on the feet? Then with both fire and ice mixing right here, it really does tend to lean to whoever is kind of feeling better that night. I mean, Uncle Chill always talks about you walk into the cage, both people know who's going to win. You know, you still put up a fight, you still do that, but at the end of the day, you always know. Now, if that's true for these ladies or not, I feel like when you're going in there and it's your night and you're able to control that first step, first movement, you're the one striking first and third, or you're the one ducking under on that counter and getting to the hips, taking her down. That's really the X's and O's that kind of unknown for me because both of these ladies are so good. Who do you think, Derick, is going to be the one stepping on the gas, putting it forward? Because I personally think Angela Hill with the teep kicks, the strikes up the middle, the fast hands, jabs, all that stuff is just going to be too fast, too much for Mackenzie Dern. Do you think the same, or are you in the opposite camp?
I wouldn't say that I'm in the opposite camp. I just don't agree with that because Angela Hill, here's the thing about Angela Hill. She's been nothing but battle tested against grapplers, right? And even though we love a great Angela Hill who shines in performances against like Emily Ducote, for an example, right? She's not fighting Emily Ducote. She's not fighting somebody who you can go recklessly forward against. She has to maintain a solid sense of distance at any time. And she even had said in the pre-fight presser, I'm not scared to get taken down because if I get taken down, I'll just get up. And that was the big concern for me because she had just said before, and I think it was more hyperbolic. She had said, I used to think the floor was lava, stuff like that. And against someone like Mackenzie Dern, who is not just a really good MMA jiu-jitsu fighter, but just like literally in the sport of jiu-jitsu, she is one of the best to do it. You can't really just, I'll get up if Mackenzie Dern takes me down. Because you might not get back up. You might get back up, but it might be second round when you get back up because, you know what I mean? Like, you got taken down past the whatever the case. So, I don't agree that that's the case, but I do think that Mackenzie Dern is actually going to be the one stepping on the gas because, as we've seen in these matchups before, she's a little reckless, willing to get hit in order to get a takedown or get a clinch, and her lack of wrestling kind of puts her in a position where she almost doesn't have a choice. So, AJ, Angela Hill can absolutely capitalize on that, right?
Absolutely, Derick. The counter striking that the Muay Thai Angela Hill possesses is very precise. And what I like about her, she's a bully in there in the cage. Mm-hmm. So if you're scared or you're not initiating engagement and actually willing to get hit, going in there and kind of leaving your guard down to expose yourself to a better situation, Angela Hill can absolutely compromise. She can make those to her advantage and then work from there. She's a very smart fighter. I mean, there's a reason why she's an analyst breaking things down. I still go back to if she's feeling it that day, how's the weight cut, how's everything else, and that's why I think the outside perspective, all the other stresses of life going into this really do take a toll and a kind of a intro into the X's and O's, if you will, Derek.
Yeah, maybe to a degree, right? But we can't. That's the one thing that, as a wagering program, as a handicapping program, as just an analysis program, you can never predict what happens on the actual day. Nobody knows. But I want to dive a little deeper into this, man. I think it's almost too simplistic for us all to say Mackenzie Dern's going to walk forward recklessly and Angela Hill's going to pick her apart. Because it's like, well, yeah, on paper, that's kind of what makes sense. But all Mackenzie... So, okay, let's take a step back. Angela Hill, when she fought Vina Jandiroba, right? We know how good Vina is. But what was she able to do? She was able to get her up against the cage, which Angela Hill prefers, knees, elbows, the clinch work, right? But come from that clinch, it's not... Maybe Mackenzie Dern doesn't have phenomenal wrestling, right? Maybe she's not going to hit you with a blast double out the gates, but she is going to trip you. She is going to do all the little jujitsu tricks to take your back, to go and snatch your heel, to go in berimbolo underneath you, like all of these little things, right? So that's where we need to be careful, because Vina Jandiroba was able to do it against Angela Hill. Why wouldn't Mackenzie Dern be able to do the same thing? And don't forget, Hill lost that fight to Jandiroba. So I still think it's levels, but let's talk about the opposite side really quick. Mackenzie Dern. You have to admit, if she gets control, right, and that's a big if, but if she can get control on Angela Hill, she can dictate where the fight is going to take place. I think it's equally as dangerous. If Mackenzie Dern can't get a takedown the whole fight, big problems. But if she can, Angela Hill, big problems if she can get the takedown, right? So what path to victory do you have for Mackenzie Dern, who, as I've said before, yeah, maybe you're not able to get actual blast double takedown. You can get little trips and stuff, but like, what's the actual path to get the fight to the cage, to like the actual cage wall, and to then implement the game plan?
It's an interesting one, because you're right. Mackenzie Dern isn't going to go in there. Well, she has a tendency to go in there with the reckless abandonment. I don't expect to see Mackenzie Dern coming out there, slick head movement, bobbing and weaving, cutting angles in order to cut off the cage and then close down on Angela Hill. The footwork of Angela Hill is very impressive. If I had to guess, Derek, I think you're right, man. Find the situations in which Angela Hill is being the aggressor, being the one coming forward, making the mistakes, presenting holes, and then just pull the funky stuff, man. Grab up on her and get her to a sprawl of any sort. That way, you know you're in your wheelhouse now. She's swimming in your waters over there when you're on the ground. Other than that, I mean, how else would you close the situation if you're in the same foot?
Well, I would take a page out of Tisha Torres' book when Angela Hill had her in the clinch and was trying to blast nasty knees to the dome. You know, at a Muay Thai knee, you're really switching and you know what I mean? You're digging with the knee. What did Tisha Torres do? That's what she got her trip. Anytime where your base is compromised, we're tripping you, we're off balancing you, we're putting you in a position to where we're taking advantage of that. So I don't want to dive too deep, because at the end of the day, man, I'm going to preface with everybody watching this. I am the biggest Angela Hill fan you can imagine. Like, if I'm a fan of either of these fighters, it's Angela Hill all day. But I do think that there's a reason the odds makers see this minus 190 at open for Mackenzie Dern, plus 160 for Angela Hill. If you look at the current odds, hasn't changed much. It has gone down a little bit. So minus 170 for Dern, plus 145 comeback for Hill. There's a reason why people are looking at this fight this way. I don't think that Angela Hill is seriously discounted to the point where even the odds makers are going to be like, yeah, nah, she doesn't really have a choice of winning. Look at TKO prop, plus 1,200, makes sense. She doesn't really, not the biggest finisher. Plus 3,000 for the sub, obviously. Plus 200 for the decision, which is very good. But why does Mackenzie Dern have a better decision prop against Angela Hill, who Angela Hill has won every single one of her last fights in the, how long, right? She's won all of them by decision. So why do you think that is?
Maybe because there's more tools in the toolbox, with Mackenzie Dern. She's able to get the sub. She's able to stay composed in the fight. She's able to last long. And it also might play into the fact that Mackenzie Dern, I feel like, has more media power. So they think she's been in 5-round fights, but I don't really know, Derek. What would you say?
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't say that. I think when you're talking about odds makers, you're not necessarily talking about who has more Instagram followers or who has, you feel me, more of a media sensation type thing. I personally don't think that. However, I think the reason why is because if you control where the fight takes place, you control the fight. And you always have to give a little something extra to the grappler, right? Because the grappler can hold you down and take away that striking. The striker, they could beat you up and they can knock you out. But what happens when they got you hurt and then they are able to take you down, take your back, and control the fight? Like, The grappler, at the end of the day, has an inherent, I think, advantage in the fight as long as they can also hold their own on the feet. That's the big question mark, man. That's the really huge X factor. So with that being said, man, we got to break it down and we got to give our pick. I like Angela Hill here. I love the narrative. I think everything is falling in line for her to pick up the victory. But that's partially the reason why I have to back away on this and I have to go on the favorited money, because there's something about Angela Hill and momentum never quite being on the same page. I'd love to see her pick up a 3-fight win streak, but I got to go Mackenzie Dern here. So I think jiu-jitsu is going to be too much, man. And I think that she submits her in the third round. What do you think?
Ooh, submission third round. I felt like the later the fight goes, Angela Hill might be able to pick up more pressure, but you're right, Derick. I mean, if you can't stay perfect for that whole 25 minutes, you're going to be drowning some waters with Mackenzie Dern. Can Mackenzie Dern avoid getting the ones and twos down the pipe, and can she actually get a hold? We'll see. I think the hand speed for Angela Hill is going to be a little too fast. She's going to work that footwork real nicely. I'm looking for the decision prop, Angela Hill.
Nice, bro. And I'm not going to sit here and lie. This is one of those, and this could be my bias here. So let me take my analyst hat off for a second. I think this could be, if there's any fight for it to happen, I think Hill could pick up a finish in this one. If there's any fight for it to happen, I think this is the one. So we'll definitely see. But with that being said, that is your highly anticipated main card. Let's not forget, too, like I said, last minute 5-round switch. Favors Angela Hill, not Mackenzie Dern. All right. So the Golden Boy's back. Edmen Shahbazyan, right? We went from being very, very hyped up, Ronda Rousey's tutelage, you know what I mean, to out the UFC, we thought. I don't know really what happened, but Edmen Shahbazyan, I mean, he's still here. He's fought a killer's row of opponents, and they're not doing him any favors by giving him a very, I would like to say, underrated Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, right? Honestly, if Hernandez had never defeated Rodolfo Vieira, do you think people would he's still underrated right now, but I would feel like people would have no clue who he is. Would you agree?
Agree 100%, Derick. Without the submission of the year, this guy would be very much flying under the radar.
But you also look at his opposition, Power Bar, Marc-Andre Barriault, which is a fantastic victory, but, well, not the biggest name. Josh Fremd, up-and-comer in this UFC showcase. Rodolfo Vieira lost to Kevin Holland. He fought the Iron Turtle, beat him, which we can't say how fucking impressive is that, right? Marcus Perez, Jordan Wright, Brendan Allen. He's fought like the toughest guys that don't carry the name value, which is what's scary here for Edmen Shahbazyan. But let's compare, man. Shahbazyan came back with a really, really good finish over Dolce Lungiambula, right? Fantastic. But before that, lost, got knocked out by Imavov, lost to the Joker Hermanson, lost to Derek Brunson, got knocked out there. And that was kind of the start of this little skid here. Do you think that this is a matchup right here, even though we're saying how criminally underrated Hernandez is? Is this a winnable matchup for Shahbazyan, man? Contrast of style, striker versus grappler, all that good stuff. How do you see it?
Yeah, Derek, contrast to styles, but what I like about Shahbazyan, he has the power to put you out, and he has the quickness to get there in order to put himself in the positions to knock you out. Now, is he able to do that against Hernandez? Because you were right in the last point you were making in the last fight, Derek. What happens when Shahbazyan hurts you? You go in for the kill, but then Fluffy Hernandez is able to shoot for the double, get your back, do something that's in his realm there. That's what worries me for this fight going in for Shahbazyan. Because if you look back at his history, those 3 fights he lost, that 3-fight skid you were talking about, were all very impressive wrestlers. And it seems like they're just giving him kryptonite again. Once again, you got the knockout on Dolce, but here's your kryptonite. Did you learn enough? And I was rewatching that fight. They were talking about his manager, I believe it was Abdelaziz, giving this guy a break, saying you need a break. He came back trying to be a more complete, well-rounded martial artist. Has he had enough time to do that? I don't know, especially going against such a dangerous submission artist. Do you think he can keep it on the feet here, Derick?
I think that if he keeps it on the feet, I think that means that this fight ends in a finish and it ends more or less early, because for Hernandez, I don't think Hernandez is going to rush anything. I don't think he's going to be, I have to take you down immediately first 30 seconds of the fight. I think he'll feel it out a little bit. And I think that he'll strategically get the fight to a place where he can then take the fight to the ground, but at a pace of his own, right? And what I mean by that is like play the smart game. Anthony Hernandez, it appears that he's not too concerned with having the flashiest highlight reel, impressing the boss. He's getting 50K bonuses just by being a smart fighter and taking the least amount of risk while simultaneously finishing his opponents and not trying to be a decision fighter. If you look at this dude's record, bro, you're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, I think, 4 finishes in his last, 10 wins or so. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's pretty impressive. And this dude is submitting everybody. So when it comes down to it, can Anthony Hernandez, if he gets hit by one of those good ones, by Edmen Shahbazyan, he got that real power. If he gets hit by one of those good ones, are we thinking flatline, or are we thinking with the scenario that you mentioned where he might be able to create a scramble?
I'm thinking wobbled, Derek. I'm thinking scrambled. I don't know if we've seen Hernandez in a position where he's really been put out. I mean, except for the TKO loss by Kevin Holland, but I mean, Kevin Holland also has that one punch power too. So
right.
Could Shahbazyan do it, man? He could put him out, but I think Fluffy Hernandez has a little bit more, because even that TKO loss from Kevin Holland was that TKO. It wasn't just a one and done. So you got to put a couple more to him. And with how dangerous Hernandez is versus how flawed Shahbazyan has been on the ground, not saying he is now, but has been in the past, there seems to be that little bit of mix him up that could get Shahbazyan in trouble. I'm not saying that what you were talking about before with Hernandez staying calm, staying calculated, getting this fight to be his fight, almost as a double-edged sword, because if you let Shahbazyan cook in there, this guy's going to be putting up some traps, setting you up, and then next thing you know, you get that flash knockout, and then the second's coming, the third's coming down the pipe. Next thing you know, your back's up against the fence, you're not able to shoot, catch a knee to the face. Never a good situation. I feel like, man, Fluffy Hernandez might be better being on, maybe not an aggressive front foot, but fighting in a way that's going to be most beneficial to him when he feels comfortable. Because I do think it's going to be a little bloody. It's going to be a little chaotic, and that's where Hernandez can strive the best.
Yeah, I think that one of the big factors you got to take into consideration here, man, is that Edmen Shahbazyan is still relatively young, right? He's like 25 years old. You know what I mean? So you got to imagine those losses probably took a big blow to the ego. And if you can make him fight that ego again, I think that that's where he could have the most advantage, man. So what if Anthony Hernandez has a little success on the feet? I think that's when you start being like, uh-oh, I can't get it done on the feet. And if he takes me, oh, man, we got problems. I don't know, man. I don't want to discount Edmen Shahbazyan. I just think that matchup-wise, this isn't the greatest matchup for him. Is it a winnable fight? Every fight is a winnable fight. And there's money coming in on Shahbazyan. He opened up as a plus 220 underdog. Now it's closed down to about a plus 170 underdog, minus 200 for Hernandez instead of minus 270. So people are liking Shahbazyan here. Once again, I'm going to go back to what I said in the beginning of this show, and I feel like the theme of the picks, for me at least tonight, is the grappler having that extra intangible to be able to dictate where the fight takes place, which takes away all the big power, because he put Edmen Shahbazyan on his back and all that power goes away. Have we seen anything from Shahbazyan, even in his last fight? Not really, but have we seen anything that has shown us this dude is a very improved grappler and he could sprawl and brawl and all that? Like, have we seen that?
No, not much. A little, but at the same point, Dolce Olunjambula is not the same kind of grappler a Fluffy Hernandez is. So sure. I don't think so at all, Derek.
And that's the biggest thing, is that it's a mystery. It's unknown, right? All we can do is look off past footage and see how these two will compare. And I just think that Anthony Hernandez shines brightest when he's in those spots where he's the most discounted. And even though he's a favorite in this fight, I still do think the people, right, are going to come into this fight thinking Edmen Shahbazyan is going to wash him. And the odds makers, I think, have it a little more on lock. Now, minus 270, I always thought was a little steep, opening it up for Anthony Hernandez. But listen, man, if he can avoid all of looking at that stuff and come in feeling like an underdog still, I think he gets it done, bro. So how does he get it done if you think he gets it done?
Ooh, I think the X factor that Hernandez presents, Derek, are the leg kicks and the body kicks. Mm-hmm. If you're able to hurt Shahbazyan, get his mobility down, really give him a couple good ones, chop down that tree, and then you're able to start really cooking, getting working how you want it. Like you said, dictating the pace of the fight how you need it to be. That's where Hernandez strives the best. Mm-hmm. I like Hernandez because he's more of a complete fighter on the feet than Edmen Shahbazyan is on the ground. So I think he has more tools to that toolbox that have been more well-refined. Me personally, give me Anthony Hernandez, submission, round 2.
You like that submission, huh? I like that submission too, man. Plus 210 on the submission by Fluffy Hernandez. And that's the thing. I agree with everything that you just said. And normally, I don't like to take that approach. But if he could really just beat up the leg, take away the mobility, it'll make the grappling a lot easier. It's like, think smarter, not harder. And I think with Edmen Shahbazyan, you fall in love with the knockouts because you're able to knock everybody out. You don't focus as much on being very technical with your striking. Anthony Hernandez has never been a guy who is like this big knockout artist, right? So I think for him, it's more about let me touch him up, let me get to the right spot, let me cut the right angle, stuff like that, right? So if he could just rely on the game plan and he can execute it without himself falling into the I got caught, I got to hit him with a big one. If you could avoid all that, I think this should be smooth sailing for Anthony Hernandez. Might have a scare or two. I'm actually going to roll. I mean, it's a shame that I have to ask you first on how you see it, man, because I like the submission too. And I would say decision here, man. Fuck it. I'm going to go, yeah, give me a decision. Give me a decision by Fluffy Hernandez. Give me that plus 225 decision prop. I'm not going to say that I think Edmen Shahbazyan is going to be a hopeless cause on the ground by a long shot. That's not the case. And I think Hernandez, if he gets the spot, he can get the job done. But I do bank on the resilience of Edmen Shahbazyan on a second run. I think we might be able to see something good out of him. So give me the decision. And then for the submission, what round did you say? Did you say a round? Two. All right. Round 2. All right, brother. And this is one of those, man, co-mains that y'all are going to be happy to watch. You might not know who these guys are, but you're going to find out this Saturday, bro. All right, man. Another fun matchup right here. We are talking about Emily Ducote versus Loopy Godinez in a short notice 120-pound women's catchweight bout. Now, this is an interesting one right here, man, because Loopy Godinez has a lot of traction on her, and Emily Ducote came in with a lot of traction from Invicta into the UFC. Now, here's the weird thing. Both of these fighters fought Angela Hill, and both of these fighters lost to Angela Hill, and I believe both of these fighters went and trained with Angela Hill after losing to them in order to kind of, get back on the same page, right, to try to get a little bit better training. Now, this matchup, in a nutshell, you would think, oh, yeah, Loopy Godinez probably is going to have all of the tools to be able to dictate where this fight's going to go, but then you have to realize she's kind of the short-notice fighter here. So my question off the bat here, AJ, is Loopy Godinez, what is, for the people who don't know, what is the strength of a Loopy Godinez?
Ooh, the wrestling, Derek, and the pressure wrestling, too.
Yeah. So it's in your face. It's on the front foot. It's striking with you, changing levels, all that, right? As we all know, or if you don't know, I'll let you know right now, that is tiring. It is tiring trying to take somebody down, especially if you're unsuccessful on your takedown attempt. It is very tiring. Now, if you want to do that on short notice against somebody like Emily Ducote, who's technical and striking, who can make you pay for failed shot attempts, this could be a spot where Ducote gets the dub. However, I didn't like the last fight for Emily Ducote, man, against Angela Hill. Angela Hill just showed she was much more experienced. She did that expert, you know what I mean, that flawless performance, that showcase bout, right? But you look at the Jessica Penne fight before that, she had a lot of success. Is that a good benchmark, though, AJ? No disrespect to anybody out here. Is that a good benchmark to say she beat Jessica Penne, who was 40 years old, pretty much headed on her way out of the UFC, and she got her big win there? What does that mean to you?
I do think it speaks something, Derek, especially because Jessica Penne isn't just a slouch. Sure, she's older in her age, and obviously no disrespect, but, time does take its toll. And is Jessica Penne now the Jessica Penne of the past? Not at all. But I still think the fact that Ducote was able to stand in there and show off her skills, maintain a level of calmness and professionalism, and able to go into that fight and do her thing speaks levels to how she's ready for the game mentally. And even in that Angela Hill fight, yeah, she got pieced up, and sure, I agree, she lost the fight. She had moments when the striking was looking good. Now, Angela Hill outclassed her 8-10, if you will, but there were still moments where she was able to shine and still have good aspects to that. So she brings a lot to the table. Now, can she do it against a very, very scrappy, pressure-oriented grappler that's going to be in your face the whole time? And also, I feel like packs a little bit more punch than people expect. Loopy Godinez hits hard, and then when you're sitting there stammering back, she's on your hips, getting you down to the ground, controlling the fight. Makes it a lot, but you're right, Derek. The gas tank, that was my question. How is the gas tank of a Loopy Godinez on a short notice fight in a catchweight division? With the style she has, is she going to come out a little more patient, or is it just first round, get a finish? What do you think?
Man, it's tough. You want to conserve the energy banks if you're Loopy Godinez. You don't want to go out there and blow your load in, 2 minutes, right? Especially against Ducote, man. Ducote is good, bro. Ducote is very good. But I will say, you look at Ducote's her knockout of the year contender against Danielle Taylor, former UFC veteran, long time, just like women's regional MMA scene. It was fantastic. Caught her with a clean one. Hit her with the head kick after. Right? Wasn't the it looked great, man. But let's just say, in comparison to this, it's a different level. You look at her other fight after that, Aisha Zapatella. Right? Are you familiar? Are you familiar with Zapatella?
Not off the top.
So, brother, let me tell you a little something. Because Zapatella's good, bro. She's very good. However, there's one problem here. Zapatella, she's 4'11". She's all of 4'11". She's an atom weight, bro. You know what I mean? So it's like you're having these big wins entering the UFC against people who probably aren't as big as strong as the people you're going to be fighting. That's what concerns me. Loopy, bro. Some of those scrambles, her and Angela Hill, they were moving each other around, bro. So it's like the strength comes to be maybe a little bit of a concern right here. So that's why I think for Loopy, she's going to want to come and pick her spots aggressively and utilize strength in certain spots. So answering your question, I don't think she'll be full-fledged foot on the gas, but I think if Ducote's not ready for that initial energy burst that Loopy Godinez brings to the table, I mean, bro, she might be able to get the fight exactly where she wants and end this thing quickly. Do you think that's in the realm of possibilities, like a finish like that?
I really like that, actually. That first one, get her a blitz, get her thinking that's what you're going to do the entire time. A quick little burst of energy, and then sit back, calm down in your reserves. Let her start thinking. Let the brain start working a little more than it needs to in your opponent, and then fight your fight. I really like that game plan.
Yeah, 100%, man. So at the end of the day, this is going to be an interesting matchup right here. I do think Ducote is a little more of a technical striker, and Godinez is way more down to just sit in the pocket and bang and mix her levels up at the same time. And that's what scares me. But the other thing that scares me here, bro, short notice, Loopy Godinez, 120-pound catch weight, and the odds makers say minus 120 for a decision. Is that one of those spots where you say, normally you have to follow where there's that minus money at, especially on a prop like that. But is this one of those where you say, I have to fade that because this doesn't make sense? Logically, this doesn't really make sense. What do you think?
Full camp, Loopy Godinez, yeah, decision all day long, especially at the minus 120, like you're saying. But it begs the question, Derek, if you're not going there, you're fading that one. You TKO, submission, what do you think? Because I'm more in line for the TKO. Get her to the ground and pound, beat her up, get the TKO finish. It's the higher of the two odds. Which one are you gambling on?
Yeah, no, you're right. If I had to gamble on one of those, man, I would honestly say submission over the TKO, you know what I mean? And it's not because I think she's some crazy submission artist, but she does have submissions on her record, man. We've seen her go for those before. Now let's talk really quickly and then we'll move on to the next fight. If you look at the two really big, or I guess three notable losses, right? Let's not forget, Loopy Godinez lost to Jessica Penne. So it's like, I can't sit here and just say, oh man, you beat Jessica Penne. That doesn't mean anything. She beat Loopy, so clearly means something. Was a split decision loss. Also, you got to take into consideration, man. I guess this is the tough part because I don't want to contradict myself. But Luana Carolina, when Loopy fought Luana, I think that was another short notice, just like kind of took the fight or whatnot. Luana was just too big for Loopy, right? Jessica Penne is a big fighter for the division. The only problem is, what did Ducote do? She didn't go in there and fight the strength. She leg kicked her. She immobilized her leg and then just beat her up. So that was a different approach. So Loopy fighting in Emily Ducote, I just wonder, is there going to be... I just don't know. I don't know. Is there going to be this major strength disadvantage when they get in there? How is it going to feel between these two fighters, man? So with those two losses, Carolina, I guess three, Carolina, Penne, and Hill, what do you read into that? And then we'll move on.
I'm more questioning, is Loopy Godinez going to find the places to make the entrance? You're right, because she did suffer with the size and the length of the Luana Carolina, as well as the speed of the Angela Hill. I guess you can kind of say power of the Jessica Penne, more so size as well, strength. But will the speed of Ducote and the technical aspect she has, because you're right, Derek, she does have a very sharp and precise skill set on her feet. Will that be enough to get her in a position where it's advantageous? I don't know. I think the blitz of a Loopy Godinez is yet to be discovered by a lot, and probably soon enough going to be on display.
That's right. And let's just give the pick here, man. I like Loopy here. Pains me. I wouldn't rock with a decision prop here. I would, if anything, minus 135 Loopy, I guess roll with that, man. I don't feel good about it, but I feel like everything is pointing towards Loopy can definitely win this fight. But honestly, if I was like, hey, I only got so much money to throw some bets down on this card, I'd probably stay away from this one personally. But what do you think?
I agree. The odds of this one make it a little stay away-ish, or just at least give a little nod, if you will. But if I'm going, man, if I'm placing money on this, if I have to, TKO, yeah, I'll stick with it because I said it. TKO, round 2, Loopy Godinez. I like the submission. I was thinking club and sub, rear naked choke also. I can see that as well. Give me the TKO, though.
All right, fair enough. We will see what happens. This is a true mystery on our hands right here. This will be a good one. All right, man. And then we move from a good technical one to just a fun one, man. Andre Fialho versus Joaquin Buckley. Andre Fialho is a man with dangerous power who sometimes falls into these ego battles where he got to take one and you got to give one back, right? Now you're fighting Joaquin Buckley and introducing him to the 170-pound division. AJ, I got to ask you right here. Is this one of those rare moments where you're like, finally, why were you not here this whole time? I mean, honestly, this dude has got the frame, he's got the power, he's got everything for a 170. He was saying I was fighting at 185, walking around at like 182, 183. That's like Kevin Holland-esque. What do you think?
Yeah, it's him and Kelvin Gastelum, Derek. It makes no sense. I'm excited to see Joaquin Buckley where he deserves, or I guess is bred to be fighting, if you will. This guy is a perfect stature for it. I mean, you're looking right across. He matches pretty closely. I mean, Fialho's a big boy for welterweight as well. But I mean, this is a prime cut down, working out, literally cutting to the weight. Finally, Joaquin Buckley, he's matching up. Does it aspect as well as, or does it compared to how Cody Garbrandt did, Derek? Do you think we're going to see that kind of outcome, or is this just a lean, mean new Mensa in a new weight class?
I think that's a crazy, crazy comparison. Cody Garbrandt looked like dried out moving down to 125. You know what I mean? Buckley, no, this is where you should have been the whole time. You should have just been a little more disciplined in your camp, ate a little bit better, and just cut down to 170 in the first place because he clearly got the power to put out 185ers like it's nobody's business. This is Kevin Holland all over again right here. This is just Buckley, right? Now, the only thing that we have to really think about is how does this affect your chin? How does this affect your cardio, if at all, right? Because if you leave it up to Buckley, he says, I do 3 5-minute rounds in the sauna, 1 minute out, and then I go in there and I'm able to last just fine, so my cardio won't be a problem. Andre Fialho has already mentioned, that might be a little bit of an issue, but more than anything else, Fialho's main concern for Buckley is the athleticism. He mentioned it. He was like, dude, he's athletic. He's got a lot of power, but he doesn't fight the smartest. And then he had to take a step back because it's like, well, sometimes I don't fight the smartest either. But, you know what I mean? Here's the big difference that I see between the two. I think Fialho, and he even mentioned this in the pre-fight presser, he's been relying a little bit too much just on pure boxing, right? He walks you down and he boxes you up. And you do that against Joaquin Buckley. We've seen time and time again, especially if this is a guy closer to his frame. It's hard to get in on Buckley clean unless you have a wrestling threat that he has to watch out for, right? So, AJ, I have to draw back to when we just watched Johnny Walker versus Anthony Smith. It felt like there was a force field around Johnny Walker where he could just stand there, kick you in your legs, and be like, you got to come in here, bro. And if you come in here, I'm going to catch you. And I feel like Joaquin Buckley is kind of the same situation, except way smaller, and he forces the entry instead of just waiting. Do you see a parallel, or am I just out of my mind?
I can see a parallel. Buckley does fight in a way that is forceful and powerful. You know, you're going to be in a situation with Buckley no matter what. You're not expecting a 5-round or a 3-round snooze fest in this fight. I mean, either way, neither of these fighters are exactly that way. But Buckley has a way of putting himself in situations that are both beneficial and harmful. I mean, look at the Kevin Holland fight. When he got in close, just like he wanted to, because he's a smaller fighter, closer to the chin, Kevin Holland turns around, just gives him a short one, puts him out. So it's a weird thing for Buckley because I feel like he has all the greatness, all the intangibles, all the kind of characteristics you look for in a really good fighter. Just sometimes he's on the wrong end of the sword. Fialho, on the same point, is also kind of that same way. And I'm curious why he's thinking about the athleticism, why he's worried about the athleticism of Buckley. Because is it a problem? Yes. Is it dangerous? Yes. But do you think his loss to Nasruddin Imavov is playing a little bit too much in the head of Fialho? I mean, Muslim Salikov, excuse me, his last fight at Muslim Salikov. Because Salikov, for a, how would you say, not as athletic looking person, had the snap on him. He had the speed on him, and he was cutting off things, man. He was fighting an incredible fight. Now, are you more worried going into that you're going to get more unathleticized or out over athleticized in a Joaquin Buckley that's now cutting down and probably faster and just as strong as he was before? Do you think that plays into it? How do you see Buckley doing? Is this just a first round war, Derek, or are we going to see a cool, calm, patient Buckley like the Johnny Walker you're talking about?
So to answer the first question, I don't think that it's Andre Fialho being really too concerned about, ooh, this scares me. He's super athletic. I have to watch out. I think it's more about this man. He possesses major power. He's bouncy. He's all over the place, and I got to mind my P's and Q's. I think it's really as simple as that, right? I don't think there's any real fear behind the Fialho here. To answer your second question, I truly think that this fight is a matter of who lands clean first. I think it's literally as simple as that. I can't say if it's going to be first round, second round, third round, but whoever lands that shot and lands it clean, I think will be too much for the other person. Both of these dudes have been knocked out. Both of these dudes knocked people out. And both of these dudes are not afraid to get in the pocket and really swing and bang. Both of them like to walk forward. I personally think Joaquin Buckley will be the one willing to walk forward. And if he needs to maintain distance, that's the big difference between the two. Buckley is a little more willing to kickbox versus solely box, right? Not going to see a shot here from Buckley or anything like that, at least I don't think. But we also have to read into the TKO props here. Plus 120 for Buckley, plus 250 for Fialho, who is like just as equal of a knockout threat. So it almost doesn't make sense, but odds makers have to see it that way for a reason. They like Joaquin Buckley, on a decision and on a TKO more than they like Fialho doing the same. Why do you think that is? Is it strength of schedule, or is Joaquin Buckley simply that dangerous of a man and moving down to 170? If that power translates, brother, it's going to be a problem.
To me, it makes sense on the TKO prop. I feel like Buckley has just that little bit of intangibility, especially, he had the KO of the year was last year, 2 years ago. This guy has the athleticism, that bounce to get it done. So I can see the KO just slightly edging him out, even though, 100 plus points. But the decision to me kind of makes a little bit less sense. That's where I'm a little more confused. I feel like Fialho, with only exerting himself on the hands and feet or just in his boxing, not really using his feet, he's able to maintain a little bit more, slightly, because New Mensa we've seen, and this is a new weight class, so this all could go out the door. Could be training harder, could have a deeper gas tank, but we've seen him slow down a lot more, and that really right there with his explosiveness and athleticism, when he slows down in those third rounds, that's where he can get outworked, and that's where the decisions come into play. That's why I thought it'd be a little bit closer. What do you think?
Well, I have to take a step back, man, because Joaquin Buckley, if you look at who he's fought recently, you're talking about a lot of grapplers, man. Imavov, Duraev, even Al Hassan, Ahoyo. I mean, I guess that's basically it, right? But if you're looking at Andre Fialho, you're not really dealing with those grapplers. I think that's a big part of why he has slowed down the way that he has. You have to fend off takedown shots, right? You have to make your moments count. So I'm actually going to push back because I think Andre Fialho is more of the first round fighter who kind of tends to fade towards rounds 2 and 3 than Buckley does. I think Buckley has just a touch of a bigger gas tank, but it's 170, so who knows, man. At the end of the day, I'm going to go right back to what I originally noted. First one to land clean wins the fight. Give me Joaquin Buckley. I'm almost like, if you gave me a firefight scenario and you gave me like a handful of fighters and you're like, of all the fighters in the world, who do you want in this firefight spot? I think I would put Buckley there regardless of the scenario. So give me Buckley. Give me a first round knockout. How do you see it?
Yeah, he's the man to toe the line in a firefight for sure. Derek, give me Joaquin Buckley. Give me round 1 TKO. I'm right there with you. I think it's going to be who lands first and who's able to take that second one, because I think both of them are going to land on each other regardless.
That's right. This will be a fun one, folks. If you don't watch MMA and you're like, oh, can you show me a fight that would get me in that? This is the fight right here. Show your friends this one. This is the banger fight right here. All right, man. And then to open up the bout, man, Michael Johnson versus Diego Ferreira. Listen, bro, this is going to be a mixture of, y'all must have forgot on both ends. Because first off, Michael Johnson, notoriously slept on. If you look at hit lists, he's got one of the biggest, most impactful, talented, skilled hit lists that you've probably ever come across. Even though there's a lot of losses in there, it doesn't matter. He had the balls to step up and fight these guys. And then you got Diego Ferreira, who's arguably one of the greatest first-round fighters you've ever seen in the history of the sport. And I mean that in the sense of this dude gets on your butt, and he gets on your butt quickly. Pause. That even sounded weird. I tried to PG myself, and it even sounded weirder. I shouldn't have said that. Anyways, listen, man. Striker versus grappler, it'd be easy to really just nail it down that way, man. Ferreira, he'll sit there, swing and bang with you, and he'll sit down, and he'll go start working the jiu-jitsu. But Michael Johnson, bro, we just saw it against D1 Jacasey in the last fight. Sprawl and brawl, baby. Let's go. I have to ask you off of the bat here, man. Do you think if Diego Ferreira takes Michael Johnson down, does he get back up?
Yes, I do think Michael Johnson gets back up, Derek. Michael Johnson has been a one of the few longtime fighters that still continuously makes improvements, whether it's incremental, excuse me, or exaggerated. Michael Johnson is always down to fight, always a dog, and even when he's the underdog, he's still got that dog in him. What I do think is going to happen though, if Fajeda is able to get into the ground, it's that second takedown, that third takedown, because Fajeda is relentless, and that is one of his biggest pros as well as his biggest cons. Because you want to talk about a gas tank issue, Fajeda, there's even times where he'll look in his fight and just look at his coach like, I don't want to do that. This seems very hard. I'm good, and that's what worries me, because if Michael Johnson can rely, excuse me, on the experience, on the veteranship, on that mentality, he's an absolute dog in this fight. I mean, you're looking at the hit list right now, but if you go down, this is Michael Johnson, correct?
It's Michael Johnson.
He has a TKO on Dustin Poirier, so this guy can get it done in a multitude of ways. That was his second to last TKO right there in 2016, long time ago. You see, he goes on a little bit of a stretch, but if you just look at this dude's hit list, absolutely amazing. Michael Johnson, what worries me most, or for Fialho's camp, Michael Johnson has very, very fast hands. Do you see another route to victory besides piecing Fajeda up in the first round and then keeping it going second, just staying on your feet and really lining the ones and twos up, Derek? What do you think?
You asking me if I see another method aside from the tried and true Michael Johnson method? No, I don't see no other method. I think that's it. I think that stay on the feet, sprawl and brawl, baby. Fast hands, put him on his butt. With your hands, with your fists. You know what I'm saying? Here's the thing. I know I just showed you guys this, but I'm going to say it again. Name another dude who has sit here, who has a win over Tony Ferguson, who has a win over Gleason Tebow, Joe Lauzon, Melvin Gilliard, Edson Barbosa, Dustin Poirier, Andre Fialho, Artem Lobov. He lost to these guys, but he also fought the best of the best. Benny Dariush, Nate Diaz, Habib Nurmagomedov, Justin Gaethje, hurt Justin Gaethje. The damage, Darren Elkins, Josh Emmett, Stevie Ray, Jamie Malarkey. I mean, must I go on? He even fought Miles Jury back in the day, man. That's an old name people haven't heard about in a while. Let me see. Is there anybody else James Krause? I mean, come on, bro. The point that I'm trying to make here is that if you're talking about a dude who is tried and true, who talk about experience, he's like Angela Hill, but just like older. You know what I mean? Like even more experienced than Angela Hill. Michael Johnson has been doing this for a long time. So has Diego Ferreira. But here's the one big key that I need to mention to you that Michael Johnson revealed to the world. These two were actually supposed to fight not too long ago, man. Let's not forget that. And the fight never fell through. It never ended up happening. And the reason why, and this was approximately, you're not going to see it on Tapology if you look it up, but this was approximately 8 weeks ago, 10 weeks ago, something like that. And it was going to be a short notice. Michael Johnson stepping up on 3 weeks for Diego Ferreira when his last opponent didn't end up working out, right? And when Diego Ferreira, supposedly, according to Michael Johnson, was offered the fight, he turned it down. And he said, I need more time if I'm going to fight Michael Johnson. So that puts a little bit of, right? Because if you look at Diego Ferreira's last fight, it was actually supposed to be Jakar Close last 7:30. 7:37. What is that month? July? There we go. July? Yeah, there we go. Back in July. So the point is, man, supposed to step in 3 weeks notice, ended up needing more time to fight Michael Johnson. That gives me pause. On top of that, the last fight that Diego Ferreira has was back in 2021 where he lost to Mateusz Gamrot, right? Or Gamrot, excuse me. I know we like to throw a little finesse on there. But, you know, the point stands, man. You have a layoff by Ferreira. You got a game Michael Johnson, who's still active, OG, beating up the young guys, fighting at Kill Cliff. Let's not mention that. That's a good gym. I mean, the dominoes are in favor of Michael Johnson, I feel like, but I think the bigger name and the more hyped up person right now is probably Diego Ferreira, even with the layoff. What do you think?
I could see where you're coming from. And I mean, all the intangibles have been seen by Michael Johnson before. They have not really been time tested. I mean, to an extent for Diego Ferreira, he has seen a lot of them as well, fought a lot of really hard matches, but Michael Johnson's seen it all, done it all. Like you're right. Like you said, Derek, training at Kill Cliff, this guy is still with killers day in and day out. Iron sharpens iron. We've seen what he does. Man, it's this. This is actually a very hard one because I agree. Michael Johnson is one not to sleep on, but can he withstand the storm that is going to be coming out of the Ferreira camp? Can he cover up, shell up, get what he needs to do, get Ferreira to the ground, survive on the ground, make him stay at distance, whatever he needs to do? in that first round. Because if he gets out of the first round, or at least if he provides a very hard first round and then he's able to get out, I feel like the Ferreira really starts to suffer. Or is Ferreira going to come out very calm, cool, collected? I don't see that, but at least a little bit more patient, because you're right. When you said that Michael Johnson let all the air out, where Ferreira wanted to, need a little bit more time, I think Ferreira respects Michael Johnson right here. That's why he's like, oh, okay, I might come out a little bit different in this game. This boy can piece me up on the feet. I can't just leave my head on the center line and swing for the fences. So will we see a game plan of Ferreira? Will that make a difference? What do you think?
Well, so this is the thing. It's like, on one hand, you bought yourself more time because you're taking your competitor seriously, right? On the other hand, you bought your opponent more time. So now they're like, I was already ready. That was your best shot of winning. 3 weeks notice, short notice. Now you gave me a full 10-week training. Oh, shit. You know what I mean? So listen, at the end of the day, it's all speculation at this point. We'll see come Saturday night. I like Michael Johnson here, and I think it's as simple as this, man. Be fast, be crisp, be first, and if Diego Ferreira wants to be the wild man, catch him with the counter and put him away. However, I do think Diego Ferreira is skilled enough as a grappling practitioner to be able to save himself with a good scramble and removing distance, closing the distance, and holding his opponent to be able to survive to where Michael Johnson squeaks out what I think will be potentially a controversial, potentially a very close decision. I think give it to Michael Johnson, though. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I see it. How do you see it?
If record proves anything, Derek, we at least need one controversial card or fight per card right here. And Michael Johnson could be the dog to do it. I personally am going with the pressure, the pace, the finesse, or lack of finesse, if you will, but just brawling style of Diego Ferreira. I'm actually going to go with the submission. I'm going round 2. I think we're going to see a bit of a sprawling seminar, if you will, because Michael Johnson is no slouch on the ground, but it's that 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th attempt from Diego Ferreira that's going to give him success.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks. That is your main card for UFC Vegas 73. And with that being said, since we are running very short on time, AJ, we just got to hit some sleepers and we got to dip up out of here. So
it's time for some fight night.
If you ain't paying attention, you're going to sleep on me and I'm going to wake you up.
It's time for some sleepers, baby. Y'all know what time it is. This is the most coveted part of the show. Maybe not in terms of length of the segment, but in terms of the value we provide in showing you who today's sleepers are that are going to turn into tomorrow's stars. You know what time it is. AJ, I'm going to let you tee off first, brother. As usual, 60-second bar pitch. Orion Cosce versus Gilbert Urbina. Tough finalist in a weird way, replacing Tresean Gore. Either way, talk to the people, man. What do you think about this fight?
Tough finalist for the Gilbert Urbina. Like you said, gets to it in a weird way, but finally gets the chance to prove that he's the real deal dog in the game, bro. Now, you got to be in the fight to win the fight. Gilbert Urbina has finally come back to the UFC after losing his last one to Brian Battle. I mean, hey, and can you blame him? Battle has been on an absolute tear. Now it's time for Urbina to get back in the cage and do his thing. Now, he's going up against a tough but game and very not beatable, but willing to get into a firefight kind of style in Cosce. This guy, man, very exciting. You can see he beat his last one in Blood Diamond, lost, I believe, his intro to Phil Rowe, but, it is what it is. Phil Rowe, he's a gangster out there. But if you go back a little bit further, you dive down, Cosce has a bunch of first-round finishes. So that's why this one's fun to me, Derek. First round, going to be exciting, going to be action-packed. All the excitement comes out of these guys. And if you're looking, a lot of people are on Cosce's side, but don't look at the decision. I'm looking for a knockout right here. Give me first-round savagery. It's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure you tune in somewhere up in the midway of the prelims. You got a little bit of time, folks. It's on a Sunday afternoon, so make sure you grab your friends, you grab your family, and you pay attention. Watch the sleepers. It's going to be a lot of fun.
That'll be a good fight. That'll be a good fight for sure, man. Urbina is no slouch. 2 grapplers, really what it comes down to. 2 grapplers who are probably going to have to mix it up on the feet. Tune in for that one, folks. And you know me. I told you, women's MMA. I'm the highlighter of this thing, man. I'm the biggest proponent. And my 60-second bar pitch is this. If you know anything about a Natalia Silva, you know she's the new big bad woman on the streets, the mean streets of the flyweight division. So this is what you know. Look at her last fight. Spinning back kick TKO. Oh, let me scroll down. Sorry, folks. I didn't know you couldn't see that. Spinning back kick TKO. Jasmine Jasvidicius got the unanimous decision. Before there, she's finishing people, man. Submissions, all the good stuff. Now, you got a Victoria Leonardo who, when she first came into the UFC, man, it was almost like, oh, man, should she be here? Manon Fiorot, the Beast, who we haven't heard from in a while, man. People are sleeping on her in the flyweight division. Yeah, she broke her arm, just kind of dismantled her, head kick, punches, all that. Next fight, Melissa Gatto, another one where it's like, oh, sheesh, man. Those are two killers off the bat, so you can't really count that, right? Then she gets the Mandy Baum fight, and she gets the dub. So now we're on an upswing. This is what I'm going to tell you, the end of my 60-second rant. You want to see somebody get hurt? You want to see violence, blood, jaws getting punched, bodies getting kicked? You want to see real, legitimate violence out of 125-pound, high-class, high-level athlete females in the UFC? You're tuning into this fight. You need to shut your mouth and just watch what happens here, because this is going to be legitimately, I can't tell you about Victoria Leonardo, but Natalia Silva, I can almost guarantee you she is going to be a future star here in the UFC. And these are the moments that you have to tune into for the battlegrounds. And you don't believe me? Let's scroll down. 96% of people think Silva's going to win, 49% knockout, 18 by submission, 27 by decision. Listen, Leonardo might get it done because every dog has their day. But AJ, that's a sleeper. If you got a sleeper, that's a sleeper right there, right?
I'm glad you brought the excitement with it, Derek. I'm glad you also got a little angry with it because, folks, he's right. You need to shut up and watch this fight because Leonardo is very down to put herself in a dangerous position, and Silva is absolutely a killer. It's going to be a very fun fight.
And the biggest thing right here is that at the end of the day, man, when it comes down to these matchups, my energy came baked from that initial comment you said when the mics were cold, how people are saying this card sucks. There's no good fights on this card. Y'all are tripping, man. Y'all are tripping. I'm going to tell you this much, man. There's a lot of fun fights on here. And with that being said, folks, if we had more time, I'd dive a little bit deeper into it. But trust me, go take a look at the prelims. It's free. You know what time it is. So we're skipping the prelim pour over, and we're going straight to the outro. AJ, this was the show. UFC Vegas 73. We got some fun ones on our hands coming up next, man. I think that we got, I think this one got changed. I don't know what it is now. It was supposed to be Hermanson versus Brendan Allen. Not sure what we're having there. But we still got, what's her name? Amanda Nunes versus Irene.
Oh, yeah, I blanked too.
Irene Aldana, right?
Aldana. I kept wanting to say Jessica Penne in my mind, bro. I knew that wasn't right.
We got Vittori versus Cannonier. We got Topuria versus Emmett. We got Strickland versus Abus Magomedov, right? We got some fun ones coming up, man. But we need to focus on UFC Vegas 73. I want to take a step back really quickly. AJ is up on the leaderboard currently right now in the Bloody Water Podcast head-to-head competition. So I got my work cut out for me. But you do understand that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're backing me or if you're backing AJ, you're backing the Bloody Water Podcast because we're the program to make you some money, to get you right, and to entertain you 2 times a week. You already know what time it is. AJ, give some people some last words, and let's hop up out of here.
Folks, when you're out there on the Twitter sphere and everybody's saying these fights are boring, who are these people, nobody wants to watch, you know there's a reason why you're listening to this show, because when everybody else is faking it, we're actually making y'all money, getting it in every single week right here, and giving you the stars of the future nonetheless now, but continuously going forward, always getting y'all some money, and that's the biggest thing right here. It's a lot of fun as well. Like Derek said, if you're not hitting that button, make sure you subscribe, smash the subscribe button right now, get it done, and share it with your friends, because nobody likes somebody who doesn't share their money.
Exactly. Don't be stingy out here, folks. Spread some love. Check out the links here below. Go ahead, give us a follow. Shout out to my boy AJ. Give him a follow on Twitch at twitch.tv/Santa Fe Bomber. You can follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/D496_. If you like fight talk, you know where to go. Also, if you like some of that I do some weird stuff too. I like the AI art and all the fun stuff, man. So I put that occasionally. But I'm here for fight talk. Saturday, I will be live tweeting. You know what time it is. That's it. I've taken enough of your time here today, folks. That is it for us. Catch us on Monday for the UFC Vegas 73 post show. Should be a fun one. That's it for us. And until next time, peace.